Kitchen, episode number 8. Today we are going to make saucy ranch pork and potato recipe. This was given to me by a friend at work, and she just sent me like a bunch of them, and some of them were like easy things that are less than 5 ingredients. We're going to try and make this fast because I'm trying to do this over my lunch break. So I printed off the recipe, I went to the store over my lunch break, and now we're going to make it because it's a crock-pot recipe, so it can sit in there while I'm at work, and then when I get home it'll be all nice and ready. So I highly recommend a crock-pot if you don't already own one. Mine's from the 60s. I don't know if you can see it.
Now you can.
It's very fancy. They last for forever, and they're super, super handy. And also, pro tip, work 5 minutes from home because it is a huge, huge benefit that like no one ever talks about. So anyway, pretty much all it is it makes 6 servings. So we have six ounce pieces of pork in here, and then we have 6 potatoes. And so you'll get a potato and a pork chop with your meal. Now, I already washed these prior to my statement where I was like, I never wash anything. I do wash potatoes because you can actually see the dirt on them because they come from the ground and whatnot. So I'm just covering these or cutting these in 1/4-inch cubes. Actually, it says 3/4-inch cubes, but that just means quarters to me, so that's what I'm doing.
You're quartering the potatoes, not 1/4-inch cubes.
Yeah. I'm quartering the potatoes. And then we're going to microwave them to get them tender. The other thing that this recipe does not call for, but we're going to add, is our baby carrots and peas because we have them left over from a previous recipe. Now, because I'm trying to do this fast, I didn't actually look up to see how many calories were in this, but I can tell you what my total bill is for it. It was $15, so 15 divided by 6 is gonna get to something
$2.50-ish
per meal, which is really good. And I think that this will be enough even for Jeremy, especially since we're gonna use leftovers from previous meals. Because the other thing is, if you're like, that's not quite enough calories for me once we do figure out how many calories it is, we do still have those rolls left over from a couple of episodes ago. So after you quarter your potatoes, and I just used red potatoes, which is actually what the recipe calls for, you're gonna stick them in a microwave-safe bowl, so no metal. Which I had to think about for a long time because most of my bowls do have metal in it. And then I put a 1/4 cup of water, which I already pre-measured, in there. And then I am going to place them in the microwave, covered on high, 3 to 5 minutes until potatoes are almost tender. The other thing you can do is if you don't like the skins, you can skin them. But I don't mind the skins, and again, I'm trying to go fast.
Also, the skins are really good for you if you do leave them on there.
Are they?
I thought so. I always thought they were really tasty, so I never really thought about it, but I know most vegetables have a lot of vitamins in the skin.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and start that. It says transfer potatoes and pork chops into a 4 to 5 quart slow cooker. So I'm going to dump my pork chops in there. It's stickering. So I got about, because it says 6 ounce pork chops each, and 6 does not go into 16 very evenly.
Well, 3 goes into 16 really easily.
Right. No, 3 doesn't go into 16 evenly.
Or 18.
18, right. So I got a little bit over a pound. So you would really want like 1.125 pounds. So I got 1.17 to 1.09, and we're going to call it kind of good enough. So I'm going to put my pork chops in there. You're just throwing them in, and that's the glorious thing about a slow cooker is you just kind of throw things in, and then you come home at the end of the day and you're like, I'm tired, I don't want to cook, blah blah blah, and it's already there and made for you. So, and then we'll have time to wash your hands, go to the second piece of this.
While you're doing that, what did you think of the chicken pot pie?
It wasn't terrible, it was edible. I'm going to eat the second half of it. I ended up taking off the top crust of mine just because I had no idea how many calories there were. And so I was like, well, if I take off the top crust, then I should probably be about where I want to be. Because the other thing is half the sauce went down the drain with the parsley. So I just have no idea how many calories it is. Which is not the worst thing in the world, it's just, it makes it a little bit harder. Because even though you're not counting calories, you should still try and stick at a certain limit if you want to lose weight.
And I will actually say I thought it was fairly good still. I think that the one thing it was a little bit dry because we did skim out some of the sauce, pulling the parsley out. But I thought it was tasty other than that.
The other thing I was thinking that would be good is instead of boiling the chicken, if you did the foreman the chicken,
It would have been way more tender.
It would have been way more tender, and then it would be juicier. So even if you have less sauce, it would still be really tender. And so I think if we ever make that again, that's the way that I'll go. So again, if you don't have a foreman though, then that's a little bit hard to do.
Yeah, and I honestly think if there'd just been more sauce, it would have been good to go. And I think moving it into a single pie made a lot of sense. We tried to talk ourselves into doing the 2 pies early on, but I think the single pie was the way to go with that.
Yeah, I think so too. So I'm getting out a small bowl because I am taking a shortcut with this recipe. You can make your own ranch dressing, but I don't know that there's any need to. I just bought a Hidden Valley Ranch packet. It was about $1.50, and then I got the buttermilk recipe one. I don't know if it's any good or not, but I was like, sure, I'll give it a go. So I put this in there for 3 minutes, just touching the sides to make sure I can pull it out. And I'm just going to get a fork out, and I'm going to kind of poke at the potatoes, and I'm just looking to see if I can actually get in there. I can't get in there. I'll bring it this way so you guys can see. So what I would prefer to see is when I go like this to make some sort of indent, and as you saw, it just got pushed down further in. So I'm going to put it in there for another 2 minutes, which is perfectly cool because I was at the low end of her size anyway. So another 2 minutes to let that go. I'm going to get a bigger bowl. I decided. I'm bowling it. But if you want to be really cool, you could probably even get your own ranch spices together. I have no idea what goes in it. I'm sure if you looked it up online it would. And that would again go back to our, if you can control how much salt you take, then you should, because I'm sure this has crazy amounts of sodium in it. So there's 135 milligrams, which is 10% of your daily salt intake if you have 2 tablespoons of it. So it's kind of a lot.
Yeah. I imagine you could just use a bottle of ranch dressing as well, right?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know. You probably wouldn't need the condensed chicken soup, so I'm going to use, so I used a pack of that, and then I'm going to use 2 cans of condensed chicken soup. The other thing that you could do...
You mean cream of chicken, right?
Yes.
Oh, just checking.
Well, it's condensed cream of chicken. Oh, yeah, I just read the word condensed and chicken. I'm in a hurry, folks. We are doing this on time. I don't remember what I was going to say. The other thing is if you wanted to make this a little bit less fattening is you wouldn't need to use 2 whole cans. You could use 1 can. I just worry that it might not be as tender. You could also use chicken if you bought chicken in bulk because you're like, I'm going to use a lot of chicken. Then instead of using the pork, you could use chicken. I'm sure it would taste just as good. So I have those 2 cans. Then I have a cup. It actually calls for 2% milk, which is great because that's what we have. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that in there. And then it says, just mix them together. And then once these are fully mixed, we're going to dump it over them. So I'll check my potatoes. It got warm. So I just take my dishcloth and do it like that because I have a bowl. If you had anything else that had handles or something, then it would be a little bit easier. So again, just doing that fork test. It is a little bit easier to squish them.
Not really. That still looks awfully hard.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in for 2 more minutes. I'm going over the recommended amount of time, but depending on how big your bowl is, like maybe hers are all flat against the water, and then how high your microwave is, it could just take varying time. So I wouldn't suggest just plump it in for 5 minutes at a time, but you know, for 1 to 2 minutes as you get it kind of tender, I think is perfectly acceptable. So I'm just mixing this. I'm mixing it pretty slowly because I don't want it to squirt everywhere. And let me think. What else did I say? Oh, so then today I forgot at home my egg things, and at first I thought I forgot them in the car. So I was like, almost into work, and I was like, oh, I forgot my breakfast. Like, my hand's empty. So I went back to the car, empty look, and there was no breakfast there, and I was really sad. So I ended up getting a muffin and a chai tea from next door, which obviously is not something, you don't want to eat muffins every day. But because this diet isn't specifically low carb, it's not like it's going to destroy me and I'm going to gain back any weight that I may have lost from eating one muffin. It's just not something that I want to do every day. So it's kind of nice to know that you have the flexibility of if it doesn't work out, then you're not just completely boned. If you wanted to, you could cut the carrots tinier, but again, because we're in a hurry, I'm not going to do that. I'm not even going to measure. I'm just going to say, well, how many carrots would I want each serving, and kind of eyeball it.
All my delicious carrot snacks.
Now, serving of carrots is 3 ounces for those who are interested. And if you wanted to measure out 18 ounces, then you would have exactly 3 servings worth. I'm going to do the same thing with the peas. I have a little bit left. The other thing that I noticed with the parsley chicken is that when I was like, I'm just going to dump in the celery because I had it, not because it calls for it, it was too much celery. That was the biggest complaint I had about it. Celery
has a surprisingly strong flavor. So just kind of adding it, like carrots have a pretty neutral flavor, peas have a pretty neutral flavor. Celery has a fairly strong flavor.
Yeah.
Adding extra celery was probably not the right decision.
It was too much celery. Not too much parsley. The amount of parsley I found was right on. That's how much parsley you should add. But the amount of...
Surprisingly, it didn't taste overwhelmingly with parsley. I was actually kind of shocked.
Well, the spices... Jeremy mentioned at one point that we got them in 2011. So, and spices do lose their flavor after a while.
So it kind of works out that we have to buy new parsley.
Yeah. So I wonder. So this time, like, my fork is going pretty easily into it.
Yeah, that looks much more like.
So these are probably ready. So I'm just going to dump them in.
Do you need to drain the water again?
Yes. I was testing you.
Okay. Did I pass?
No. So I put them back in the colander.
I assumed we had a colander out for some reason.
Well, I used them originally to wash them.
Oh, I guess that's true.
So, putting those right on top.
It's a pretty full crock pot.
It is a pretty full crock pot. That's okay. And then you can see it's kind of, like it's creamy. There isn't like one ingredient that's.
You have to tip the bowl a little more for them to actually see it.
That's.
Now they can see it.
It's a lot. When you open up condensed soup, it doesn't really do like that. I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't. It's very sticky, and this is way more creamy. So that's exactly what you want. And there aren't like packets of dry seasoning anywhere. So I'm just going to pour this over kind of evenly, the top. And that'll seep in and add some flavor and help it to cook. Make sure we get all of that goodness. And then the other thing is if you're like, after we get the calorie count, man, that's a lot of calories, you can always just get rid of the cream on the other end too, even if you make the whole thing.
Yeah, you don't have to serve out all the cream in the pot. Sure. I would in fact say that you're better off cutting it later than earlier because it might affect the way it cooks if you try to cut it pre-cooking.
Right. So, or if you're one person and you're like, that's just a ton of servings, like I don't want to have pork chops 6 nights in a row, because if a diet's boring, you're going to fall off it.
Yeah, that's true.
Then you can cut the recipe in half. And this one's really easy to cut in half.
Yep.
So then, all we're going to do is we're going to cook covered on low for 4 to 5 hours until pork and potatoes are tender. And thermometer in certain pork should read at least 145 degrees. And then you could sprinkle it with fresh parsley if you wanted. When I read that, I laughed. The one thing I will say about slow cookers, so I don't know if you know this, like we're done, that was like 15 minutes.
Yep.
Like all we're going to do next is come home and eat, and that's it. So if you add in kitchen time, like grocery store time, altogether is like a half hour. That's really good. But I was gonna say the one thing that you want to watch for, if you're like, I want to make this for dinner, but it's already 5 o'clock, so I'm just gonna put it on high. Don't do that. At the very least, go online and do a little bit of research before you do that, because it will not cook the same. If you want to cook this specific recipe in a shorter period of time, bake it. Don't slow cook it, because it's not gonna work out for you. But other than that, we'll come back next episode and let you know.
We'll come back this episode because when we serve it up and everything, we'll attach that at the end.
Oh, okay. We'll attach that at the end. There you go. Have a good day. Welcome back. It is almost 6 o'clock. I worked late. As you'll recall, this is only supposed to be in there 4 to 5 hours. I put it in a little bit before noon, so I should have taken out right at 5. However, because it's in a crock pot, it shouldn't burn, so we should still be good. So we're just gonna open it up. It smells really good.
It does smell good.
And just kind of stir it up. The biggest thing is whether or not the meat's done, which I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be. If I can get to it down below, here's a piece. Whee! The sauce is good.
Good.
So, basically what you would do is you get out your fork that you're going to use, you jab it in there. Ooh, it's falling apart. That's a good sign. That means it's nice and tender. So I'm going to use my fork and my spoon in conjunction. Get it out. And then I'm also going to get, because we quartered the potatoes, I know that I'm going to get 4 potatoes with this meal. And then however many carrots and peas I want. So the peas are coming out already, and then I'm just going to, I keep grabbing potatoes. And then if I wanted, I could get the rolls that we brought up last time, or not last time, but a couple episodes ago. But anyway, basically that's what you have. Like I said, the pork is kind of just tearing apart. So it's really good. As I look at it with my fingers. If you want more sauce, all you need to do is get your big spoon out. And I do want more sauce because there's a reason I'm chubby. And then you just ladle it over. And if you wanted it to be even thicker, you could actually put it in a saucepan with a little bit of cornstarch and just whisk it until it thickened up a little bit, and then you'd have a thicker gravy, and that could also be delicious. Although, more calories because you're adding cornstarch or flour. But anyway, that's it, and then you eat it and you enjoy.